Hi, I hope everyone's having a fabulous day today. In this reading, I'm going to be doing a twin flame energy check-in. There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Snowflake Obsidian. Group 2 is the Dalmatian Jasper. And group 3 is the Fire Agate. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and fill whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection, and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Snowflake Obsidian. So let's start by looking into the thoughts and feelings of your twin flame towards you and the connection at this time. Okay, we have love, compassion, rainbow blessings, and ancestors, generations. So it feels like your twin flame has been working to overcome some kind of wounding, fear of history repeating itself either between the two of you. Like if you're in separation, this may be somebody who's considering reaching out, bridging the gap between the two of you, trying to fix things or work on things. But there's a sense of like, I don't want us to just fall into the same circumstances of things are good for a while and then fears or wounding takes over and it all falls apart again. So this is somebody, it feels like, that understands there is some kind of personal degree of responsibility they need to take for the situation between the two of you in any ways that it is not living up to the expectations that they had first placed upon what was possible between the two of you. Or maybe this is somebody that like ran from you in the intensity of their feelings in the past, and there's a sense of almost like they're recognizing that that has come from a place of they've been conditioned in some manner, maybe through their upbringing or even like previous hurts in love and romance, to think good things don't last. I better leave this person before they abandon me. And so this is almost somebody that has taken on that kind of abandonment wound. Like they're afraid of being kind of seen for who they truly are, or people getting like bored with them, or losing interest in some sort of way, which it feels like historically has happened right when they've like fallen deeply in love, right when they've gotten comfortable within circumstances and relationships. The rug's been pulled out from under them on more than one occasion. This might have to even do with like childhood and upbringing, love that was very conditional, or even like parents that sort of weaponized love against them, that made it be very like performative, or have to be earned in some sort of way, or even withheld as like a form of punishment, where they've applied some of that wounding or like the psychological effects of these experiences upon them. They've unfairly kind of compared the situation with you to that sort of toxic basis that they had to work with, that programming deeply within. And they've come to some kind of realization about that. You're very different from people that have wounded them. You've not given them any indicators that this circumstance would play out as other circumstances had, in terms of like they open up, they're vulnerable, and they're taken advantage of, they're discarded, they're abandoned. And so there's a sense of like guilt and regret almost. How could I have walked away from you? How could I have pushed you away? How could I have put my walls up or applied pressure to this situation to like test your loyalty, when you have never displayed anything other than transparency with me, consistency with me? Even if you've had to like set healthy boundaries with your twin flame, it's a sense of like you've always been very clear about that. There's always been this ability to kind of discuss things openly. You've always been very open to kind of like hearing their perspectives on things. You've held space for them in that sense, allowing them to kind of evolve and grow into this place of being able to express themselves or communicate, or kind of let you know their concerns and worries. And that's not a red flag. It's in fact a green flag for them. And so there's a sense of almost like recognizing on their part, I need to do what I can in order to make sure that my wounding doesn't create further complications between the two of us, or it's already created complications. And this is almost like someone that wants to come back towards you with some kind of epiphany that they've had, some kind of revelation, something that indicates kind of changed behavior, but almost as like a gesture of love, kind of opening up to you. These are the things that I've discovered. This is the way in which I was able to connect the dots in previous situations in my life, how that affected me, and how I unfairly took that out on you, or judged this connection, or your intentions toward me, or the love and affection you were trying to show me against previous situations that I've experienced where that was just trickery, it was just manipulation, or it was just an illusion which was offered, that ended up creating kind of like hurt and upset in my life. And so again, this is a sense of somebody kind of shedding those patterns of the past, or recognizing something on their end of the equation needs to change or evolve in order to be able to kind of actualize the potential of all this emotional fulfillment, not just to kind of like touch on the possibilities of love, but really ground that into something very realistic, because they see you as somebody that they would want to kind of build a legacy with. They see you as somebody that has the capability to evolve alongside them through many different seasons of their life and of their reality. And it's a sense of like, I don't want to lose you because of this like fear and wounding within. I don't want to lose you because I've judged this situation based on past hurts I've experienced with other people, and you've been made to kind of unfairly have to compensate for the ways in which other people failed to show me healthy and authentic love in the past. So they've been doing some deep soul searching, it feels like, and they've come to this realization that you're worth fighting for. This connection is worth fighting for. It's worth shedding that hesitation or guardedness inside of them in order to become more consistent in what they can show to you as far as love and affection, and what they kind of acclimate themselves to becoming more comfortable in receiving from you as far as like love and affection, without second guessing that, without questioning the motives, or if there's a catch in some sort of way to what you've offered, the stability, the compassion, the patience, the tenderness that you've offered. That may be something that has felt very unsafe for this person in the past, again because of that wounding deeply within that they've now touched upon, they're aware of, and there's a sense of like, I don't want to compare what we have or what we can build in the future with everything that has disappointed me that I've known with other people before, or even previous cycles we've been in with one another where I've not shown up as my best self, and that has prohibited you even from fully stepping into that best version of you for me and for us and for yourself as well. So let's take a look at some blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they are working on right now. Okay, we have spiritual strength and firm foundation. So this is the energy again of somebody who is really questioning all that they have been taught as far as love, romance, chemistry, potential relationships, based on their own experiences, based on what they've kind of witnessed in other circumstances in their life, people that they care about, people around them, their upbringing, for example. And this is somebody who's kind of sifting through what is relevant, what works, what are some kind of like lessons or things of value that I want to bring forth with me into the future that can help me as a person to thrive, that can help this relationship to, become more solid, stable, and substantial, versus what is some toxicity that I've just kind of held on to and I've empowered that fear within. Maybe somebody who has witnessed, bad breakups with other people. Their own parents might have split up, or there may have been a lot of chaos within the home growing up that they kind of just filed away in their subconscious, deep in the recesses of their mind, kind of like, I don't want my life to look like that. I don't want to go through that. I don't want that to be my lived reality and experience. And so it feels like it almost had put them into a place of like hypervigilance or being very closed off, very, very unwilling willing to sort of take risks in love in the past, or even in the situation with you, because there's always this fear of like, what if I get too attached? What if I get too hooked on this? What if I start believing too much in kind of the beauty of what we share, the beauty of what's possible in love, and then it all dissolves? Then I get trapped in a situation, true colors are shown, and it's to my detriment emotionally. So it's a sense of them really recognizing that there are some things that they need to kind of release, not even so much heal from, but just release, that were, maybe bits of advice or wisdom given to them by people who were themselves very wounded, very jaded towards love, that in some way has created like a negative impression that they have of relationships. Again, fears of like worst case scenarios playing out that have kept them at a distance or kind of closed off from fully trusting in this experience with you, or trusting in love to be like a good and healthy thing. There's a sense here too with spiritual strength that they're having a hard time admitting that they were wrong, or that they misjudged you in this situation. There's a sense of almost like not wanting to open up old wounds and create any hurt or heartbreak for you in terms of expressing what some of their underlying motivations might have been in the past for like pushing you away, shutting down, or even like ghosting in this situation altogether. But there's a sense of like, you need to understand that this was nothing that you did wrong. This was just kind of like a fear that I wasn't seeing or feeling things clearly between us, that in some sort of way an idealism within me was taking me away from being able to logically sort of scrutinize what we had, what we shared, what we were building with one another, and then I was just going to end up trapped in a circumstance that turned out to be toxic. So it's almost like they didn't listen to their heart in the past, and they let kind of what they may have thought to be like a practical side of themselves, but it feels like it was very fear-based, very much kind of a deeply entrenched sort of energy within the subconscious. They allowed that to be kind of the navigator in this situation in the past. And there's a sense of, they know they need to provide you with some kind of clarity in that regard, not in terms of like making excuses, because if there's an apology that's owed, it's a sense of like, I need to give you a heartfelt apology, but I also want to provide you with some context so that you understand that like, I'm not just expecting time to pass or us to just kind of like look the other way and move forward as if nothing happened. Like, we need to revisit what has fallen apart or what has been dissatisfying, or the limits within this situation up to this point in time, so that we can have an understanding with one another, so that we can move forward in a different direction, in a better direction, mindful of these fears, mindful of these triggers, and to be able to kind of move with more consistency in whatever it's possible to build next with one another, or beyond this point. And so there's a sense of almost that it's a delicate kind of matter. How do they talk about sort of these fears and these motives without it kind of closing you off? Almost some of these things that it might seem very absurd to you, kind of like, well, why would you compare what we have with, the person that you were with that was like seeing someone else behind your back, for example, or, just left you in like a very unkind manner, or, the broken home that you came from? Why would there be any indicators that any of those situations would play out within what we were building with one another? And it's almost like an irrational fear that is founded in some sort of way on experiences that they've seen, experiences that made an impact, or things that they've kind of like lived through in previous chapters of their life, that just sort of crawled up to the surface in the midst of the beautiful times that you were sharing with one another. So this may also be somebody that has a hard time like asking for help or reaching out for help in general. This may be something where it's almost like, I need your help in navigating through these things. I need your help in making sure that this fear that I've now identified doesn't win, doesn't succeed in kind of keeping us at a distance, or closing off, or kind of stifling the potential that can develop here. And so expressing that, sharing some of that with you, becoming very vulnerable, which it feels like is not a strong point for this person. They're not used to doing that in general, or even just with you specifically. It's almost like it's like a cry for help in some sort of way. Let me express these things to you, and maybe you can help me or help us to find a way through this, to find a way beyond this, or at least hold that kind of safe and sacred space for me while I unpack and kind of navigate through all of this into a different sort of experience of how I'm showing up for you and what's possible for us. So let's take a look at their potential actions towards you. Okay, we have flexible and to be fair. Yeah, so this to be fair, this is like the justice card. And so this can indicate, an apology, a very honest conversation that they have with you that may almost reveal a lot of things about this person or a side of them that you didn't know existed. You might have had some kind of indicators of like hidden potential with this egg here on the scale, and then we got the egg here as well in the flexible card, that it's almost like there's a version of them that they are trying to kind of birth forth into like their present reality, sort of like change for themselves. It may open up about certain, even just kind of realizations and aha moments, which represents a change or an evolution beyond ignorance, beyond denial, beyond like avoidance. They've done some introspection, and it's a form of almost like I'm rising to the occasion in my own life so that I can more than meet you in the middle, so that I can show to you through this kind of willingness to like look at my own reflection, look at my own history, look at my own past, and see how that is impacting the present moment, that there's a better version of me that is more self-aware, that is more self-accepting, that is more like honest with myself, not just pointing the finger of blame, but like accepting responsibility for things in my life that don't feel good, relationships, interpersonal relationships, the connection with you, and the ways in which that has been dissatisfying for the two of you. And this is almost like an effort to show you like I'm endeavoring to grow. I'm trying to evolve. I'm trying to understand my own motivations, not even like the conscious motivations, but the things that are more deeply buried within the subconscious. How has the experience of like past hurts and disappointments, how has that created sort of a certain predictable narrative for them in the present, or things that almost like worst case scenarios that they're looking for, not finding any red flags, and so self-sabotaging in circumstances as may have happened here. And there's a sense of them opening up about certain things, maybe even like using terminology or just the lines of discussion, or their willingness to kind of dive in deeper with you as far as their honesty, or even their willingness to kind of hear you out, hold space rather than shutting down, running away, or becoming argumentative when you're expressing kind of your hurt and disappointment with things that have happened. All of this sort of demonstrates that they're coming out of this very kind of rigid positioning, this rigid programming. And it's a sense of like, I'm trying to step outside of my comfort zone. I'm trying to become someone else for myself. And because I also see that something needs to give, something needs to grow, something needs to evolve, and it needs to start with myself in order to be able to show up more presently in what we have, or the opportunity to rebuild and recreate something with one another that moves in a direction that can withstand kind of the storms within this situation, because it's not so fixed in like a predictable reality. So something that they may kind of present, demonstrate, or even the manner in which they may approach, that could be, if you've had a lot of like back and forth with this person, it's almost like it's a new way of relating to you that demonstrates they've been working on some things behind the scenes, that it's not quite at that place of like readiness to come forth, but it's almost like checking in with you. So like, this is where I'm at in my progress. This is where I'm at in my path. This is what I've kind of discovered. This is what I'm sort of sitting with and allowing to sort of take shape within myself. These are the realizations, and how that correlates to different sort of choices that I'm making in terms of what I'm giving my energy to, versus like starving out those fears, or kind of not leaning so heavily on that woundedness as like the tried and true authority, and how I should be opening my heart or closing myself off to certain situations in my life, and also for you. So let's get some guidance about the situation. Okay, we have openness. And so with this, I'm hearing keep an open mind. And it feels that this kind of relates to the idea with this kind of moon energy, sort of the shadowy energy. When your twin flame kind of comes forward, it may be a series of conversations that take place, or a way in which they just become, I'm hearing like active listeners. So they may even be like holding space for you to kind of vent and express and communicate more in a way that is different from how they were operating previously, that there's a sense of almost wanting you to lead in terms of openness, but being very willing to kind of like follow suit or match that or reciprocate that in some sort of manner, but that it's not just going to be this huge kind of like, okay, here's this epiphany, here's this realization, here's everything that I know, and I'm demonstrating like all of this change in a better direction. It's almost like a new cycle is capable of developing, but it's going to take this person like a slow approach, like they're like a slow and steady approach beyond kind of the relationship they've had with themselves, the however much or little they love themselves, and how that's kind of translated out into their interactions with others or their interactions with you. And so it's almost like there may be a period of like growing pains within this situation where, they take a step towards you, they feel a little bit kind of vulnerable or exposed outside of their comfort zone, and they kind of just stop. They kind of just remain in place, followed then by, like another kind of expansion. And so it's something that, if you can keep an open mind, it feels like, they're wanting to, they're getting ready to, they're going to try and sort of use a different approach in the situation. Open up that heart space, take down those walls, become very honest and vulnerable. If you as well can function as like an active listener for them, not try to give advice, not try to heal, not try to fix, not try to save them, just hold that space while they're kind of working through this aspect within of like, okay, these are the limits I've placed upon myself and the idea of love and partnership. This is how it's kind of affected what we are experiencing in the here and now. This is what I'd like to see happen moving forward. These are some things I want to try to see if we can work as a team to get there. And then kind of participating with them in that capacity. It feels like, as much as they may hold a lot inside, there's a lot of conscious thought that has gone into this. This is not somebody who's really running anymore from the glaring reality of like, I'm the common denominator within many of these situations of disappointment I've experienced or what I've witnessed and seen, that I don't just need to kind of like pile on that hurt and allow that to sort of direct the show as far as like how I'm acting, how I'm behaving, what I'm shutting out of my life and my reality. So it's a process of them almost consciously, regularly, daily, kind of like shedding the need or the urge or the instinct to kind of fall back into old patterns, and instead expanding forth into a different sort of direction, in terms of what is possible between the two of you, what they're able to kind of bring to the table in this situation. So like patience might be something that's good to kind of utilize with this person when they reach out, when they come back around, because they may not have all the answers right away, but it's almost a sense of, if you can keep an open mind, you'll notice that it's like they're gradually kind of moving in that direction of tipping the scales towards like a favorable outcome in the situation, not just allowing the old pattern to perpetuate itself or forfeiting their efforts to try and like course correct with you and just sort of, agreeing with kind of whatever's fallen apart in this situation. But the sense of like, I know that we can have something better. I know that there's something more. I know our story isn't just supposed to dissolve like this or end here. So being very open-minded with kind of the various ways in which they may try to show you like, hey, I'm trying to evolve. I'm trying to like become a different version of myself. And it feels like in that sort of sense, you're going to have a lot more awareness of kind of what you're working with, where this person is at in terms of their evolution and their development, and if that's actually able to kind of match up with what you're requiring, with what you're looking for where you're at in your life journey and what you envision for the future as well. So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say I have a tendency to F things up. Yeah, so there's that energy of self-sabotage. They're very aware at this particular point in time that some kind of distance, some kind of, dissolution of your connection up to this point in time, that there's personal responsibility that they need to take. They may not be at the place yet of saying, hey, I'm fully to blame for this. It may be the reality that they're not fully to blame. It takes two to tango. Even if they were expressing woundedness in the past in some sort of way, that might have triggered wounds within. The two of you could have been dancing in a very wounded space with one another. And that might be a topic of like this keep an open mind, like the conversations that need to take place. It may be difficult topics that need to be talked about in order to find some kind of suitable compromise or a way to move forward together. But for their part, they're owning the fact that they do have some blame in this situation. There are aspects within themselves that they are now recognizing are not true demonstrations of their feelings for you. Anything that was like said or done that created hurt and wounding, it was a reflection of like a wounded aspect within themselves calling the shots in the situation. And there's a sense of almost like, I don't want to let that side of myself win. I don't want to let that side of myself continue to have power over this beautiful connection that we have, or what is salvageable in this situation. They also say, I'm sorry I took you for granted. So again, this is somebody who recognizes that they have unfairly kind of compared you to people in their past that wounded them. They've held you to an unreasonable standard because others previously had let them down. They understand that you're very different from the types of people that had created hurt and disappointment within, and therefore it's not appropriate to like apply the same standard of discernment to the situation with you versus like, say, if an ex tried to come back around, or in terms of like thinking about previous situations that had fallen apart, or toxic examples of love and romance that had been demonstrated to them in their past. It's like you offered them something that was very fresh, very honest, very healthy, very realistic, very authentic, and they didn't know how to handle that. They didn't know how to receive that. It feels like in any kind of distance that's happened, or any kind of introspection that's taken place, they've come to an understanding that like they've been conditioned to kind of accept toxicity as normal, and that this is something that's unhealthy. It's something that has led to hurt and disappointment for themselves and for others. And so this is someone who's trying to make a concerted effort to kind of reprogram their subconscious, and maybe listening to kind of affirmations or subliminals to try and kind of rewrite that sort of undercurrent within, kind of tune those strings inside of themselves that the puppet master of fear is able to so easily pluck, in order to be able to kind of generate a different version of themselves and how they show up, looking at things at face value, or looking at this situation from more of a positive perspective, rather than like expecting the worst, or kind of unfairly judging you in the situation based on other things they've experienced before with other people that left them worse for wear. They also say, my heart will always belong to you. Yeah, so they want to fix this. They want to move forward. They want to open up. They want to provide some kind of clarity for you. They don't want to lose you. They don't want to allow whatever kind of awkwardness or wedge or block or barrier has kind of been created, consciously or inadvertently within this situation. They're not just wanting to leave that unaddressed. They're not just wanting to let that fester and kind of build. There's a sense of wanting to come in closer, wanting to create more intimacy, wanting to reestablish trust with you, delicately, by kind of like learning to trust themselves and what they feel motivated to kind of change as far as their ideas about love, the approach to love and romance, or any kind of like woundedness that they've been holding on to unnecessarily that has no place within what the two of you share. They also say you are so kind, sweet, and accepting. So again, they really kind of admire you as somebody different from anyone they've known romantically, maybe even in their life in general. Feels like you've exhibited a lot of patience for this person. Even if you've been very firm in your boundaries, they can like sense within your heart or within your energy that you are likely open to at least hearing them out. If they have something valuable to share, if they have some kind of change that has been demonstrated, not empty promises, but actual actions, steps that they've taken in a better direction, that you're somebody who will take them at face value, not just hold their past or kind of, the rocky road the two of you have been walking with one another up to this point. You're not just going to hold that against them. And so this sets you apart from everybody that they've known, and helps them to really understand that if anything is worth fighting for, it is for the preservation of this connection, or kind of the development of a new future for the two of you. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, whatever resonates for you. Got G, S, D, K, L, O, Y, Z, I, E, N, H, F, A, C, R, and R. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Dalmatian Jasper. So let's start by taking a look at the thoughts and feelings of your twin flame towards you and the connection at this time. Okay, we have Wolf, Instinct, Island, Solitude, and Tsunami, Wake Up Call. So with this energy here, this tsunami energy, I'm hearing you're the one. So it feels like this person has moved past some kind of energy of questioning, something where they may have tried to use logic in this situation or take a practical approach to the energetic connection they sense, the spiritual connection they sense, the compatibility in like a 3D capacity that they sense and experience with you. Feelings that have grown emotionally, and it's a sense of like all signs point to the fact that you are the person for them. You are the individual that aligns not just with someone that fits the model of like what they've been looking for in a partner and in a person in a very like classical or traditional sense, but there's this aspect of almost you've opened their eyes to new levels of connection between people. You may have catalyzed a spiritual awakening within this person, or like a kundalini activation. The two of you may have been on like an ascension journey. You may have had to like take some time apart, or this person has maybe been going through like a dark night of the soul, or they've distanced themselves, or they've disconnected, they kind of retreated from this situation in some way, or maybe circumstances in both of your lives have required kind of like time apart. If there's been like work commitments, travel commitments, family commitments, like other things that have sort of limited the time that you've been able to spend with one another. It's almost like absence has not just made the heart grow fonder, but it's helped to really sharpen this person's ability to perceive you and your value to them, the importance of this relationship in their life, which is almost singular to none. Even if they've got, like really kind of close friends or close family, it's almost the ways in which you understand this person, which you vibe together, the way that they feel in your presence, or the version of them that comes to the surface very authentically, very naturally, without having to like try or perform or, compose themselves in any sort of way. That feels right. You feel like home to them. And so there's a sense of I don't want to miss the opportunity to create something more with you. I don't want to sit in this energy of kind of questioning or comparing what we share, what we can have to, people that may have just more kind of like mundane or regular sort of connections with others. There's a sense that they don't really have a lot of people or maybe anyone that they can talk to about the nature of some of the things that they've experienced with you, maybe some of the like spiritual kind of things that have happened with them, or the way that it's more than just I'm attracted to you, I have feelings for you, or I'm in love with you. It's almost like this person's soul is deeply aligned with you. Their soul will settle for nothing less than you in this connection. And so they may be struggling with like how to put that to words. Who would really understand that it would sound ludicrous to anybody in kind of their present reality, or they might have made mention of this even, and they were kind of like laughed at or mocked in some sort of way. So they've just kept a lot of that to themselves. They've been in an energy of really sitting with this, maybe even kind of feeling your energy while the two of you are apart, or there's been some distance in the situation, and there's a sense of nothing compares to this. Nothing feels as aligned. There's an element of loneliness here and missing you, but then also strangely kind of finding comfort within the energetic bond, within the spiritual bond that the two of you share, to where it's like, even if we're off doing our own thing, I can always feel you. You're always like here with me in a way that doesn't feel oppressive for them. It doesn't feel, invasive to them in any sort of way. It's an alignment almost with like you're an extension of themselves in some sort of manner. And it feels like they're placing a lot of importance or priority upon that may be actually leading to some degree of impatience, as far as like if just life circumstances have called you both in different directions. It's almost like, I need to see this chapter of my life through to completion so I can get to the business of building this relationship with you back up or into something deeper, so that we can join our lives together in a way that I don't have to miss you anymore. I'm with you. I'm married to you. We're together as like an exclusive and mutual couple, or just whatever that looks like. Wanting to deepen the connection between the two of you rather than allowing kind of time and space and circumstances to leave a lot of things unsaid, or to kind of leave the situation open to like misunderstanding or miscommunication, or like a lack of clarity. It's almost like they want to kind of take steps and do things with you that they haven't been willing or able to do with anyone before, or in this circumstance up to this point in time, that they've either, been kind of cautious about because there's a sense of, this feels different. This is different than anything I've ever known. I've got to study this. I've got to look at it. I've got to analyze. I've got to be very practical about it. And they've satisfied that practical curiosity. And this is almost somebody that it feels like is letting their instinct, letting their soul kind of determine what the next steps are in this situation. So let's look at some blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they're dealing with right now. Okay, we have balance and rest and rejuvenate. So this rest and rejuvenate can again speak to kind of like a period of disconnect between the two of you that may have had to do with some kind of like fight or misunderstanding, but it feels like more likely it just could have to do with people that are very busy, like two people that have a lot going on in their life, or maybe this person has a lot going on at this time and they don't have the time or the ability, or maybe even distance separates the two of you to where they can't invest a lot at this time. They don't have a lot of hours in the day to, spend interacting with you, or maybe, there are even days where you don't interact at all. They're very immersed like within their own world, or kind of are just working very hard, or have a lot going on, where at the end of the day, it's kind of just, they're exhausted. There's not a whole lot of room in their life for anything else. They may be working towards some kind of bigger goals or dreams, or just have a lot of responsibilities at this time, to where it's a challenge to almost satiate this need within them that's become like a craving. There's almost like a fear that it could spiral into some kind of obsession, because there's a sense of like, I want something more. I want your presence. I crave your presence. I desire to build with you. And yet for all that desire, I lack the ability presently to be able to see that through into anything meaningful, because we're at a distance, because I don't have the time to invest in this situation, because there's been some kind of misunderstanding or fight, and it's going to require me to come forth with an apology and a plan of action going forward beyond that woundedness, just whatever that looks like, to where it's both a comfort that they can like feel your energy, tap into your energy. Maybe there's some telepathy going on or a lot happening in the dream space that provides them with comfort, but then it almost again creates like energy of loneliness. Like I wake up and you're not here beside me. I wake up and I'm back in the midst of kind of the busyness that I have going on. I miss you. I crave you. I want you and I desire you, but this could almost be somebody that feels like until they have more time to kind of devote to regular contact with you, or getting together with you, they closed something out in their life in order to be able to have more time to themselves or more energy in the day. Then it's almost like, I don't want to just give you crumbs. I don't want to just give you hope, and then it's something I can't really deliver on. And so it feels like it's taking a lot of self-control and self-restraint to kind of hold themselves back at this point, to just sit in that space of like longing and desire, because they miss you. They want something more in this situation. Even if if things are going well, but it's like maybe you're both just busy at this time. You don't have as much time to spend with one another. And that's given them an opportunity to really introspect and reflect and feel in for themselves very independently to like, what is this? What does this relationship mean to me? What does this connection with this person mean to me? It's a sense of almost, it's like agony that they can't just fast forward to the time where you're beyond this kind of stage of uncertainty with one another, and you've created something more of like a solid or an actual connection or a partnership with each other. There's a fear here as well that because there's something where they're having to like hold themselves back, or they're kept at a distance from you. There's almost like they're starving for you. They're very mindful of like, I don't want to drain you. I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to like pull on your energy. I don't want to come across as, somebody that you would need to like put boundaries up for. But it's almost a sense of like, when they interact with you or when they kind of feel into your energy, it raises a lot of enthusiasm within them. So it's almost like a challenge to kind of like hold themselves back in some sort of way, because there's a sense of feeling that it's almost like a fragile place that you're at with one another at this point in time, or like their next steps forward crosses a threshold into something more, something deeper, something better, but it's almost maneuvering through that, operating in this kind of liminal space at this particular point in time. They're not wanting to take too much from this connection. They're not wanting to like overindulge or just fulfill like their own kind of energetic needs, emotional needs, actual needs. There's a sense of, I want to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you feel safe, that you feel that your needs are being met as well. And so it's almost like how to create that balance in this point in time where there's not really the ability, or you haven't reached that place in your connection yet to speak about that out loud, or there's not a lot of time to kind of discuss kind of the mechanics of everything, or to fine tune that sort of dynamic with one another beyond just, we schedule these times where we interact with one another, or I reach out to you when I can. There's a sense of like, they want to create some more regularity or kind of a routine between the two of you, but with everything as it is right now in their life, or in your life, or in both your lives, it's almost like that's not possible. And so it leads to this place where they're almost like they're craving you at this point. And so they're also trying to kind of make sure that doesn't spiral into like an unhealthy addiction to this connection, or an addiction to your energy. It's almost like moderation is necessary, but they want so much more with you. And so it's a challenge to kind of like walk that fine line between just kind of being in their own world, in their own reality, within their own energy, kind of just accepting the present situation for what it is, and tumbling into kind of this experience of like, I want something more, I want you, I desire you, I need you in my life. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. have fork in the road and imagine. So this may be somebody that's getting ready to make a compromise with you, speak about something that would let you know that they have intentions to build towards something more in the future, or desire to deepen your bond with one another or solidify it in some sort of way. But there's almost a sense of kind of like, we can open these lines of communication now, but I'm not at the point yet where I can necessarily provide that or match up with that consistently. Again, if it's like work commitments or something that they're kind of invested in or involved with that takes up a lot of their time and energy, or just has them at a distance from you at this point, they want to make clear in some sort of way to you that, like, even though this is the circumstance presently, I see it as only temporary. As soon as it is possible, I want to move towards you. As soon as it is possible, I want us to kind of reconfigure our dynamic with one another. I have to see through to completion what I've started, and then I want to be able to invest more within you in this situation, which may give you food for thought. It may help you to kind of change your perception of, if you've been in this space of kind of like, I don't really know what this person's intentions are. I don't know if they think about the future, and if so, kind of like, how does this relationship factor in? They're getting ready to provide you, it feels like, with some kind of clarity, some kind of truth, maybe even just like a sweet gesture or more small efforts to even just check in, even if they've just got a couple of minutes, a day, just something that lets you know you're on my mind, I'm thinking of you, I'm trying to connect with you as much as I can at this point in time where my energy is really scattered. I'm pulled in many different directions. I have a lot of responsibilities. So you don't just feel forgotten. You don't just feel like somebody that's an afterthought, or if they've had to kind of, again, step away from this connection, where you don't feel like they've just sort of put me on the back burner, and, then you're questioning, like, should I keep my heart open? Is it right for me to kind of place certain things on hold, or to be patient and hold space for this person? Like, are they ever going to move beyond kind of where things are at currently with us? So it feels like they're getting ready to provide you with something that kind of renews your hope, or gives you kind of something to think about as far as different possibilities for what the future will hold than what a view of kind of like the circumstances in the here and now as they are in a 3D sense, what that would entail. So it's something that opens up that kind of line of thinking, or the line of communication between the two of you, where they're starting to kind of take steps towards you, even if they're not available or kind of ready, or could sort of just dive in fully with you, make that long-term commitment. For some, this can even just be like promises of longevity, like including even the idea of like we and us in discussions that they have with you as far as like plans for the future, something that just kind of lets you know, like, hey, I see you as somebody that I want with me in the long-term sense. This is not just a temporary situation. They might even start talking about some of the more subtle, spiritual, energetic, connectedness between you, dreams that they've had of you, feeling you around. They may start to open up about things like that lets you know this person is looking at this as more than just kind of a mundane connection. They are aware of sort of the deeper soul component of what's going on here that can help to provide you with some kind of reassurance. It feels like, as far as how much space you hold for them, your expectations within the situation, and ways in which you can kind of ease into the energy as they kind of set the tone for it. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. Okay, we have flow. So this is basically just go with the flow at this point, which it feels like it's kind of, it makes sense in this situation, because it feels like whatever this kind of obstacle is, or whatever might have created sort of distance, or like an energy of isolation and loneliness, this may have to do with like practical real world things. For some, it could be somebody, that just kind of pulled back their energy, they kind of closed off, they become very distant or seemingly distracted. But for others, it feels like this will make sense. Somebody that's got, a big project going on at work, or there's distance that's a factor, things that have come up that have kind of limited your interactions, or made it very kind of difficult or sparse kind of your communication with one another. So this is almost the sense of like, don't get too don't get too bogged down with like a fear that like this is just, when things clear up on their end, then they're just going to move forward in another direction. Or, if anything that you might have kind of, fears or even kind of this person's behavior that might have made you think, hey, are they just going to disconnect completely? Is this just some kind of, convenient excuse? Or are they sort of disinterested now that we're not having as much time with one another? Has the magic worn off for them? Is the spark faded? Are they kind of, realizing that I'm not what they're looking for, things of that nature, that this is almost something that's encouraging you to trust that sort of absence is making the heart grow fonder within this circumstance, that it's just a cycle you're in, it's just a phase. And it feels to be something that kind of leads to a better experience between the two of you. They've come to appreciate kind of the nuances within this connection, the subtle aspects that maybe they weren't able to appreciate when you were in close proximity, when there was more regular contact. It was in their face, it was available at all times, and that was something that feels like prohibited them from really, in this energy of distance, being able to perceive that kind of fine-tuned energy between you, those subtle aspects, what their soul is asking them to do in this situation. So kind of trusting the process with where it is at now, letting this person kind of take the lead, it feels like, at this point in the circumstance, because there's a lot that they want to kind of say or do or show or provide, but they may be limited in terms of the real world ability to like see through on any kind of promises at this point. So it feels like somebody that's going to start to open up in more subtle ways to let you know, hey, beyond this phase in my reality or in our current reality as individuals, I want to build with you in a cohesive sense. I want to create a we and an us out of these two singular lives that we are both living. So let's get some messages from their higher self and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say, I miss hearing you laugh. Yeah, so they're missing the communication between the two of you, the contact between the two of you. If it's been a while since you've spoken to one another or seen one another, they may be really looking forward to that reunion, that phone call, that, FaceTime or Skype, or like however it is that you communicate with one another. It's a sense that you fill their heart space with so much joy when they're in your physical proximity, when they're in your presence, when they look into your eyes, when they hear your voice. They don't just hear it with their ears, they hear it with their soul. They hear you in the heart space. And it's something where, they're wanting to kind of provide you with reassurances, be that source of joy, be that sunshine for you as well. And through this distance that has happened, it's helped them to come to a greater appreciation of like who you are to them, what you kind of add to the measure of their life, wanting to grow in towards you, in your direction, like a flower growing towards the sun. They're very drawn to you. They're very magnetized towards you. They're very motivated to kind of see through to completion whatever they have going on at this point, so that they can actively take like action steps in the direction of let's build something, let's create something more with one another. They also say, you make me feel seen. Yeah, so there's a sense that you understand them like nobody has before. They may recognize or acknowledge at this point the deep empathic bond that you share with one another. Maybe you reach out to them, or you send them some kind of communication, or even send them energy at points in time where they're feeling very stuck, they're feeling very low, they're feeling like in a dark place in their reality, and you just seem to know that. You just seem to intuit that, and it's a gift to them. It's a sense that it matters more than you understand. Words of wisdom that you've given, even ways in which you've held space for this person to kind of just vent and, offload kind of a lot of the things that they've gone through, debrief certain experiences, make plans for the future, whatever that looks like. It's something where they feel very respected in your presence, very understood, very much not judged. Even if you've provided them with like constructive criticism, there's a sense of, you see a higher potential within them. You speak to the light within this person. You speak to the core of goodness within them, that maybe other people have overlooked or have not even been aware of or able to tap into in some sort of way, to where they feel both very respected by you and they highly respect you and this connection. They also say your presence gave me such a reality check on my life. Yeah, so with the energy of like distance makes the heart grow fonder, they are very aware of the fact that this connection, you are somebody that they want to fight to keep in their life. They want to work to create more of like a mutual understanding between the two of you, that isn't just here's a situationship for now, but like we're making the best of the circumstances as we can and as we must at this particular point in time. But like, I want something more with you. I want something long term. I want something stable. I want something real. Nobody else compares. I don't want anyone else. I don't want to seek for something different. Like, you're everything that I could want and need. They also say, I'm not sure I'm strong enough to face you. So it feels like this almost might bring this person to tears when they see you, when they look at your picture. Maybe you sent this person like, voice text messages even, and just listening to that, it feels like it fills them with such a sense of yearning and loneliness. Almost like, I wish I was waking up next to you every day. I wish that, your face was the last thing I was seeing before I go to sleep at night. I wish that we had a home that we had created with one another. I wish that we were, in a different place in both our lives, so that we could, get to the business of loving each other right, loving each other out loud, loving each other in the light of day. So there's a lot of missing you, yearning for you, and wanting to move towards more of a closeness within your connection with each other. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. M O S U H D A L T V W L J B F A Y K and Y. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the fire agate. So let's start by taking a look at your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the connection right now. Okay, we have tree, grounding, shaman, ancient healing wisdom, and Gaia, nurturing. So there's a sense that your twin flame feels very abundant in your presence, very encouraged to blossom into the fullest expression of themselves, in a way that may be very challenging to kind of like the life that they were living prior to meeting you. They may be motivated by your living example to start to capitalize on certain gifts within themselves that had been suppressed or denied. They may be even questioning kind of the life they've been living, routines that they've created for themselves, goals and dreams for the future that were almost reflective of the ways in which other people expected them to show up, that in some sort of way you live very authentically. You've come to a place of like self-discovery or self-actualization where you're modeling a different version of success or like the well-lived life than they had come to even know prior to meeting you was possible, or that was like, again, kind of modeled by other people around them, where this is somebody who it feels like is very motivated to kind of take risks in their life in order to sort of expand beyond their comfort zone. They feel encouraged to kind of let others see them for who they truly are, or to rebrand or redefine kind of how the world sees them in some sort of way. And all of this can be credited to kind of an energy of flourishing that has happened since meeting you. Maybe even when you interact with one another, you hang out with one another, you spend time with one another, you have conversations with one another. They're very inspired by you. You really make this person like think or feel very deeply within. This may even be a lot of things that are happening just kind of spontaneously within. Downloads that they're getting, creative gifts that are activating and coming online, a different sort of motivation or like a vitality within them that has come up from a place of dormancy within, where it's almost like they don't feel so locked into the life that they've been living, but it's almost a sense of a curiosity about the future, an enthusiasm that wasn't there before, that rather than looking at like challenges, limits, and kind of boundaries within their life as being very immutable, this is somebody it feels like who's getting very creative and sort of thinking about how can these obstacles be turned into opportunities. And that can even signal kind of like challenges within the dynamic with one another, that they're not just going to be thwarted by that. They're not just going to be limited by the obstacles. This is not someone who's going to, or who is looking at this connection and is not going to kind of going forward. They're not going to look at this as like, hey, this isn't sort of an easy relationship. It's not a typical relationship. It requires growth and evolution in order to kind of maximize the potential between the two of us. And so it's just too difficult to even try and endeavor that. This is somebody who's motivated to kind of do things they've never done before in the name of love. This is somebody who is motivated to kind of pull out all the stops to let you know, hey, I'm eager and enthusiastic for everything that is developing between the two of us, for who I'm developing into as a person. I want to be there to like congratulate and support and uplift you as you are developing and growing into a person. I feel that we could have a very abundant experience of love and partnership that would almost, there's a sense that they feel like your love story might be able to model for other people higher love anchored into the earth plane. Or you've shown this person a different experience of that, almost the way in which you're able to kind of live your life, set the tone and tempo of your own reality, and yet still create or hold space for this co-creative energy between the two of you. You've honored this person's individuality. You've honored the unique path that they are walking in this life. They don't feel pressured to change. They don't feel pressured to be anything more or less than who they are. And this is exactly what they're feeling that they've needed in order to really blossom into the fullest expression for themselves. It feels like this has been a very eye-opening experience for them, this connection with you, or things that have happened recently of almost like they were never the problem in things that fell apart or were very dissatisfying in their life, but it's almost the idea of, I was just aligned with the wrong people. I wasn't aligned with the energy of success or abundance or love within myself, and so therefore it could never really reach me. I could never really call that into my reality in a true or lasting way outside of myself. But ever since meeting you, ever since connecting with you, ever since participating either loudly or quietly with these energies and with this bond between the two of you, they're experiencing different things that are very positive in their life, different reasons for celebration. They're celebrating themselves even when others around them may kind of question their choices, or they're having to kind of step away from the herd in some sort of way. There's a sense of confidence in doing that, following some kind of inner call within, some kind of higher calling, or starting to kind of question like, what's the meaning of my life? What's the purpose of my life? what am I doing here, and how can I be living more effectively, not just efficiently within societal standards, but effectively as a human being who has been gifted the opportunity of life in the here and now. You've definitely opened this person up to spiritual reality, or more of the spiritual side of themselves, or again, just kind of deeper questions. Maybe somebody that was very much just living in the moment, just, living day to day, and now they're starting to kind of question the bigger picture of themselves. If I look back at the life I've been living 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, am I going to be happy with what I did with my time? Am I going to feel that I made a contribution to other people? Am I going to have regrets, or am I going to, feel that I did the best that I could with the tools I had available at the time, and then improved what needed to be improved in a proactive sort of way? So this is somebody that's like enthusiastic, it feels like, and eager to embark on the next phase of their journey in love with you, the next phase in their journey in life in general. They may be going through an ascension at this point in time that it feels like isn't sort of like heavy energies, it's not dark night of the soul. This is somebody that's blossoming at this point. The two of you may be very much mirroring one another in that capacity, where you're in sync with each other, you're in tune with one another, even kind of beyond words. There's kind of this quiet understanding with each other, and it's almost like I would go with you anywhere. I'd follow you to the ends of the earth. I'd follow you to an entirely new galaxy if that's what you wanted. I'd lead us in that direction if that would make you happy. So you've like awakened the visionary or the dreamer within this person, and they're very excited for what the future holds for themselves and also for this connection. So let's look at some of the challenges, obstacles, fears, or blocks that they're dealing with right now. Okay, we have power and spiritual strength. So it feels like this person is kind of working to sort of alchemize pain into purpose or wounds into wisdom, as they have witnessed you doing in some sort of way. So maybe this is like things they've learned and discovered about you, some kind of glow up that they've witnessed happening in real time. You've been with one another, or this connection has kind of been consciously sort of participated in with the two of you long enough. You have enough history with one another where they have seen the change and evolution within you, even in times where you've had periods where you're apart from one another. Your roads may have taken you in different directions. You could have closeness and then times of distance. They've been looking at this, or they're now able to kind of see beyond the surface of the situation, which again can kind of speak to the idea of like energetic gifts, psychic sensitivity, kind of like spiritual awareness, like a spiritually awakened individual, that they're kind of, it's the process of almost sort of adjusting their focus to not just take in sort of the 3D reality, but also sort of read the subtle or liminal or kind of in-between worlds state that they see that you exist in, or you flow through very naturally. They're seeing you as somebody that is truly like a spiritual being having a human experience. It's how they define you in some sort of way. And there's a sense of like, I want to adjust myself to that being the dominance of my energy here on the earth plane. Yes, I'm participating in my human experience, but I'm also consciously very aware that I'm primarily a spiritual being, that beyond this lifetime, there's a timelessness within me that is currently animated as this version of myself, but is not limited to this. And so with that may almost be kind of seeking a life of deeper meaning, stepping away from things that have just fed into toxicity or low vibrations. They may find themselves very disconnected from people, places, things, and interests, even belief systems or ideas or goals for the future that at one point in time had very much compelled them, or that they'd been working towards, maybe with even difficulty achieving success, or if they had success, almost like a sense of emptiness or like a wanderlust inside of them, like there must be something more, feeling very restless within kind of the position they had created for themselves in their life. And so it's almost like they're looking to you as sort of the key that holds kind of the answers to sort of what that thing is that's been missing for them, that is self-created. It's that sense of meaning, it's that sense of purpose that can't be found outside of oneself. It can't be purchased. It can't be earned. It's developed. It exists within. It's uncovered from the inside. And so it feels like these are kind of deeper, this is a deeper like existential process that's going on, or maybe even something that they're kind of struggling with. They've got this awareness, they've got this kind of purpose, this understanding of sort of like, this is the legacy that I want to leave. This is kind of the meaning of my life for me. But then it's almost a struggle of kind of how to bring that out into something tangible, consistent, maybe even some way to kind of translate that kind of spiritual knowing into something that involves career, involves the life that they're structuring for themselves. So it's almost like a challenge to kind of match frequency with you, or keep the pace in some sort of way, because they're sensing that you've either been invested or more open to kind of this spiritual side of yourself in a conscious way for longer than they have. And so it's almost like they're trying to work overtime to kind of like catch up as far as knowledge, become very kind of like present and mindful within their energy, so they don't just sort of slip back into the unconsciousness of a purely 3D experience. There may be things that they're kind of becoming aware of in terms of spiritual information, working with spirit guides, ancestors, angels, energies even, that is kind of, it's new material, but there's so much of it. It's such a different kind of experience that it's like an expansion beyond just kind of the limits of how they were operating in the world before. That may be sort of a struggle to kind of maintain that balance, or needing to remind themselves to kind of descend back into the 3D experience, because this higher realm, this 5D energy, it's so juicy, it's so authentic, it's so vibrant compared to almost like a sense that they've been sleepwalking through their life before. And so it's a challenge, because it's almost like they want to pick your brain. They want to like gain all this wisdom. They want to just kind of immerse themselves with you in that sort of 5D experience. But then there's also awareness of much of what you've come to was like self-taught, or you went through like a process, or you've created an aspect within your life, a niche within your life, where this is just part of your regular reality. And so for themselves in their own way, in an individual capacity, they must do that for themselves as well. And so it's almost kind of like resisting the urge to sort of have you totally show them the way to do this, and to still themselves enough to kind of hear that guidance, hear that wisdom, and then apply action accordingly, which it feels like is for themselves to kind of develop into more of the fullness of the human experience that's possible for them, but also to kind of have something very, very substantial or very authentic to contribute to almost the spiritual layers between the two of you, building a romance and even just like a human-to-human connection moving forward. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. Okay, we have no place like home and a change in the wind. So this can definitely speak to more enthusiasm, more regularity, more openness as far as their communication with you, something where they may ask you to move in with them. They may make this connection official. They may create kind of more consistency in your interactions with one another that lets you know they've come through the other side of some kind of uncertainty, some sort of necessary period of distance, maybe even like dark night of the soul. Maybe it's been kind of quiet with this person for a while, and they're popping back up in your reality with evidence that they've kind of broken through some sort of cycle for themselves. They've turned a new leaf, or they've changed and evolved in some way. They're releasing the limits or kind of the very linear thinking that might have created a divide between the two of you in the past. This might have been somebody that was very much on board with the connection, but then there was a split between the two of you. You needed to move off in separate directions in order to like clear karma, work through cycles, gain some kind of like spiritual sustenance within that was very individuated, that was very much like each of your individual experiences with spirit, with your spirit team, with your ancestors, with your spirit guides, work that could not be accomplished, or energies that couldn't properly like translate or alchemize within each of you if you were together in like a consistent 3D sense with one another. So this may be something that's getting ready to like break the ice between the two of you, kind of come out from hiding, or almost like a phoenix from the ashes to like resurface within your reality. It feels like there'll be a dramatically changed person. Many things may be changed about like their perspective, their values, the way that they're living their life, the things they have their sights set on for the future, the priorities, the goals, the company that they're keeping, the things that they're participating in. Something where it's almost like you're meeting an upgraded version of them, or they're ready to kind of demonstrate to you you've not been alone in kind of your evolution through the process of this very kind of mystical dynamic that exists between the two of us. So some kind of effort to create more closeness, maybe opening up the lines of discussion towards more spiritual topics, touching on things that you might have felt, well, maybe this is very singular and they're just operating purely out of ego and they're oblivious to all of it. It feels like they're getting ready to like open up about certain things, to start to include that or incorporate that in rebuilding something between the two of you, or just making that more of like a part of your interactions with one another. So it's not so surface level. So it's not so kind of 3D, but kind of making space for kind of those higher energies within the nature of this unique connection that it feels like that you share, that they consciously acknowledge that you share, and they may even be getting ready to kind of tell you the influence you've had on them in a very positive way, the inspiration that you've served as for them on their journey as a person in general, and in terms of kind of blossoming into a fuller expression of themselves as like a spiritual being having a human experience. If you've been disconnected from one another, they may have been like watching from afar, and so they're getting ready to come out from the shadows and let you know, hey, I've been watching. I've not been like lurking or creeping, but you know, I've been observing you. I've taken note of this. I've seen the progress. I've seen the glow up. I've seen it with my own eyes. You don't have to convince me of anything. I've witnessed this. And it's moved me very profoundly. It's made me a believer in kind of things that I never thought were possible. I'm hearing miracles, so they may almost like see it as a miracle, something that has changed or transformed the ways in which you've kind of evolved as an individual, something that is really not making them standoffish towards you in this connection, but almost like you feel right, you feel like home. You're that beacon that has been calling to me through this kind of process of evolution for myself, through this kind of darkness that I've been going through, or through my own kind of personal journey. And I don't just want to be a spectator in your life anymore. I don't just want to kind of sit on the sidelines. I want to participate with you enthusiastically. I want to get on board with the higher potential between the two of us. You've readied yourself. I've been readying myself, and I'm ready for what happens next between us. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. Okay, we have flow. So yeah, just kind of go with the flow of this situation. It feels like this person, in order to break out of whatever cycle they've been in, they're tasked with taking the lead at this point moving forward. Your job at this point is just to maintain your receptivity, the personal magnetism that you've been working on, focusing on, you know, kind of your spiritual pursuits, anything you've been focused on as far as career, abundance, you know, your glow up, your health and wellness, all of that has created a very powerful signal that this person has picked up on. They've noted this. They are very drawn to that. They are very certain within themselves that this feels right. This connection between the two of you, creating something more out of this situation, serves their highest good. So giving them that opportunity to be the one to kind of turn the page in the situation, to take that first step towards you, it feels like will help them step into that place of like power, authority, leadership that they need to be in, so that you're able to really co-create with one another, because you're giving off the energy of sovereignty, of self-assurance, of self-empowerment. And so this is almost that threshold into a very empowered energy that your twin flame needs to kind of cross over in order to truly kind of match you mind, body, and soul moving forward. So let's get some message cards from their higher self and see what they want you to know right now. Okay, and they say your light still shines brightly on me. Yeah, so again, this is somebody who's been watching from the shadows, even if they've been kind of going through their own sort of process of ascension, awakening, a higher level awareness. They keep tabs on you. They keep their eyes on you. They're very drawn to you as kind of like the brightest star in the night sky. You are their North Star. You are their beacon. You are their lighthouse that is calling them home, to kind of the way that love and connection should be between two spiritually awakened people. So it feels like this is sort of a signal right here that they are getting ready to, reemerge in your life as a changed person or an evolved person, a more self-aware person, or if you're still in contact with one another, they're getting ready to kind of open up or create more acceptance within themselves and within their energy for these deeper threads of connection between the two of you. They also say you shook up my life in the best possible way. So this is definitely somebody who has gone through an awakening. They've gone through that dark night of the soul. They've moved through the layers of doubt and denial, shame and guilt, anything where they've been living very kind of inauthentically or in the shadow of another person, or, they've needed to kind of evaluate sort of the life that they've created for themselves. And they've become very honest about ways in which they've departed from their own personal truth. They've been people pleasing. They've been trying to kind of model success as it is defined by other people. And this is somebody who's taken their power back in their life in a very dramatic way. They've made perhaps very substantial changes that represent kind of, I'm living my life for me. I'm using my time on this earth for the things that align with who I am, with what feels right, with what I feel called toward in terms of like a higher purpose or a more meaningful existence. And so it feels like that's a gift that they're wanting to bring forth to you. Subtle changes, or maybe even big changes that they've made that let you know, hey, I'm stepping out of the energy of just sleepwalking through my life. I'm moving into a place of more awareness, more self-awareness, being more conscientious of kind of the impact I'm making on the lives of people around me, and if the things that I'm doing with my life, if it truly feels right for me. So it feels like they're getting ready to bring forth a lot more vitality, a lot more equal give and take between the two of you. They also say, I run hot and cold because I'm scared of being hurt. So yeah, this is somebody who's trying to kind of shed a version of themselves and allow this upgraded version to fully take over, to fully kind of direct sort of the course of events within their own life moving forward, because there's a sense of almost like the old life that they were living, it has very little to offer. It's not even remaining comfortable in that space of woundedness. It's a tight fit. It's obvious to themselves and to everyone around them that is no longer in alignment with them. It's no longer something that they can kind of just pretend to go through the motions anymore. This person has been like fundamentally changed on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. They can't unsee the things that they have seen. They can't shut their heart space to what has been kind of experienced. They may have gone through like a heart chakra activation in some sort of way, to where rather than sort of leading with fear and ego, they're now following their heart, or building up that courage to follow their heart, maybe in the direction of you, aligning more with you, becoming more open and honest with you in general about what they're feeling, what they envision for the future, what they've experienced in this connection so far, so that there's greater understanding between the two of you moving forward. And they also say, you're so much stronger than I am. Yeah, so they admire you. They look up to you for the changes that you made in an actual sense, for the things that they are discovering or going through energetically and spiritually that, you might have gone through in previous chapters of your reality. And there's a sense of like, how did you get through this? How did you survive all of this? You've come out the other side, and you're magnificent. You look glorious. You're shining at this particular point in time. And so you help to motivate this person to kind of continue to press through this process of transformation, even on the difficult days, even on the days when they feel nobody understands them, nobody would know what they're going through, nobody aligns with kind of the life that they envision for themselves, or the things that matter, or the way in which they perceive reality now at this point. There's a sense of, but you understand, but it feels right with you. It feels like together we would be like a power couple. And so this is something that they're desiring. This is something that they're yearning for. This is something that they are actively working towards. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. E, A, O, G, E, J, C, Y, N, V, R, N, T, M, W, Q, U, S, G, and U. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channel letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.